Most people think feeding a family means weekly grocery bills, meal planning stress, and depending on supply chains that can break at any moment. But that's not really what food security looks like. What actually helps is learning how to grow simple, reliable food sources that work in real life without constant money or effort. Today I'm sharing one plant that produces 5 different foods, costs nothing after the first year, and has fed families for thousands of years. Now, before we get into it, if this kind of practical, ancestral wisdom is something you want more of, hit that subscribe button right now. Food, number 1, the leafy greens. This one matters because it solves the constant problem of buying expensive greens that wilt in your fridge within days. These leaves are nutrient-dense, grow year-round in most climates, and you can harvest them every single week without killing the plant. The reason this works is simple. It fits into normal life. You're not starting a farm or learning complicated techniques. You're growing one perennial plant that keeps producing without replanting, without fertilizers, and without any special knowledge. It doesn't rely on motivation or perfection. It just works when you show up. To start, all you really need is one cutting or a handful of seeds and decent soil. Nothing complicated. You can grow this in a pot on your porch or directly in the ground. The main thing you're doing is watering once or twice a week and harvesting the outer leaves when they reach the size of your hand. That's it. Leave the inner leaves alone and the plant keeps growing. To keep this going, focus on just one small habit. Trim back the top once every few months to encourage bushier growth. Over time, this leads to fresh salads, smoothie greens, and stir-fry vegetables without ever buying lettuce or spinach again. And it makes your days feel a little more intentional without taking more energy. You're eating food you grew with your own hands. One small thing that makes this easier is harvesting in the early morning. The leaves are sweeter and more tender before the sun hits them. It's not necessary, just helpful. The biggest shift happens when you realize you're not dependent on the grocery store for fresh greens anymore. That mental freedom is worth more than the money you save. You can dry extra leaves for tea or powder them for smoothies. Nothing goes to waste. This plant wants to feed you. Your only job is to let it. Food number 2, the protein source. This one matters because most people struggle to get affordable, shelf-stable protein that doesn't require refrigeration or constant shopping trips. These pods or seeds contain complete protein, essential amino acids, and they store at room temperature for months without spoiling. The reason this works is simple. Each pod you harvest contains the seeds for next year's crop. You're never buying seeds again. The plant creates its own abundance without chemicals, without complexity, and without breaking your budget. It doesn't rely on motivation or perfection. It just works when you show up. To start, all you really need is to let the first set of pods mature completely on the plant instead of harvesting them young. Nothing complicated. You'll see them turn brown and dry naturally. The main thing you're doing is waiting for that drying process, then removing the seeds from the pods and storing them in a cool, dark place. That's it. Some you'll eat, some you'll replant. To keep this going, focus on just one small habit. Save 20% of every harvest for replanting and sharing. Over time, this leads to a permanent protein source that extends your food security and gives you something valuable to trade or gift. And it makes your days feel a little more intentional without taking more energy. You're building real resilience. One small thing that makes this easier is toasting the seeds lightly in a dry pan before eating them. It brings out a nutty flavor and makes them more digestible. It's not necessary, just helpful. You can grind these into flour for baking, add them whole to soups, or eat them as a snack. The protein content rivals eggs and meat in some varieties. Historically, these seeds kept entire communities alive during food shortages because they don't spoil and they pack serious nutrition in a small package. Your ancestors knew this. Industrial agriculture made you forget. Food. Number 3, the root or tuber. This one matters because it gives you a carbohydrate staple that replaces potatoes, rice, or bread without annual planting or special storage. These roots grow underground and stay fresh right in the soil until you're ready to harvest them. No refrigeration needed, no wilting. The reason this works is simple. You harvest only what you need and leave the rest in the ground to keep growing. It fits into normal life because there's no pressure to harvest everything at once or preserve it before it spoils. It doesn't rely on motivation or perfection. It just works when you show up. To start, All you really need is one small root section with 2 or 3 growing points in a spot with loose soil. Nothing complicated. Plant it a few inches deep and cover it with mulch. The main thing you're doing is mounding soil around the base as the plant grows taller. This encourages more root development underground. That's it. Water during dry spells, but otherwise leave it alone. To keep this going, focus on just one small habit. When you harvest, take from the outer edges and leave the center portion in the ground. It'll regenerate and multiply naturally. Over time, this leads to a permanent food source that provides filling, nutritious meals and makes your days feel a little more intentional without taking more energy. You're never running out of the basics. One small thing that makes this easier is mulching heavily around the plant. It keeps the soil loose, so harvesting becomes as simple as pulling back the mulch and grabbing what you need. It's not necessary, just helpful. These roots can be boiled, roasted, mashed, or fried. They work in every recipe that calls for potatoes or sweet potatoes. Some varieties are starchier, some are sweeter. All of them give you that satisfying fullness that keeps hunger at bay. This is emergency food that doesn't look like emergency food, it's just dinner. If this is giving you ideas, tap the like button so more people can find it. And let me know in the comments which part of this plant would be most useful for your family right now. Are you most excited about the greens, the protein, or the roots? I love seeing what you're building and what matters most in your real life. We're all rediscovering these systems together, and your perspective helps everyone here. Let's keep this conversation going. Food number 4, the fruit or flower. This one matters because it gives you natural sweetness, color, and variety in your diet without depending on expensive fruit from thousands of miles away. These fruits or edible flowers bloom continuously during warm seasons and require zero special care once the plant is established. The reason this works is simple. It fits into normal life because the plant produces small amounts regularly instead of one overwhelming harvest. You pick a little, eat a little, and there's always more coming. It doesn't rely on motivation or perfection. It just works when you show up. To start, all you really need is patience. Most plants won't fruit until the second year once the root system is strong. Nothing complicated. Just let it grow. The main thing you're doing is watching for color changes that signal ripeness and picking at the right time. That's it. Different varieties have different indicators, but the plant tells you when it's ready. To keep this going, focus on just one small habit. Remove spent flowers or overripe fruit to encourage the plant to keep producing instead of going to seed. Over time, this leads to fresh snacks for kids, natural desserts, and homemade preserves that make your days feel a little more intentional without taking more energy. You're eating seasonally without thinking about it. One small thing that makes this easier is picking some flowers in the bud stage before they fully open. They have a different flavor profile and work better in certain recipes. It's not necessary, just helpful. You can eat these fresh, dry them for tea, make jam, or ferment them. The natural sugars give you energy without the crash of processed sweets. And there's something deeply satisfying about handing your child fruit you grew instead of fruit from a plastic container. This part of the plant brings joy, not just nutrition. That matters more than people realize. Food number 5, the seeds or oil. This one matters because it gives you cooking fat and concentrated flavor without buying processed oils that come in plastic bottles and lose nutrition on the shelf. These seeds can be pressed for oil or used whole as seasoning, and a small harvest goes incredibly far. The reason this works is simple. Traditional cold-press methods work at home scale without expensive equipment. You're extracting pure, unprocessed nutrition that our bodies actually recognize and use. It doesn't rely on motivation or perfection. It just works when you show up. To start, all you really need is to collect the dried seed heads at the end of the growing season and store them in a breathable bag. Nothing complicated. Let them finish drying completely before processing. The main thing you're doing is crushing or grinding the seeds to release the oil, then straining it through cloth. Methods vary depending on the seed type, but the principle is always the same. That's it. Some people use a mortar and pestle, some use a hand crank press. To keep this going, focus on just one small habit. Store your finished oil in dark glass bottles in a cool place to prevent it from going rancid. Over time, this leads to cooking oil that costs nothing, contains no additives, and makes your days feel a little more intentional without taking more energy. You're closing the loop on food independence. One small thing that makes this easier is toasting the seeds lightly before pressing. It creates a richer, nuttier flavor in the final oil. It's not necessary, just helpful. Beyond cooking, many traditional cultures use these oils medicinally for skin health, wound healing, and inflammation. The seeds themselves can be sprinkled on bread, added to granola, or ground into nut butter. Nothing about this plant goes to waste. Every part has value. That's how nature works when we stop trying to control it and start working with it instead. Priority bonus. Tip. Here's something most people overlook, and it makes a bigger difference than you'd expect. Instead of trying to master all 5 foods from this plant at once, focus on removing one small friction point. Start with just the leaves. That's it. Grow the plant, harvest the greens, and eat them for 3 months before you worry about anything else. Most people fail at food independence because they overcomplicate the process. They read about seeds and roots and oils and they feel overwhelmed before they even start, so they do nothing. The secret is starting so small, it feels almost silly. One plant, one food source, imperfect action beats perfect planning every single time. Once the leaves become normal in your life, once you stop thinking about it and just do it, then you move to the second food source. Maybe that's the roots, maybe that's the seeds, it doesn't matter which one. What matters is building the habit slowly so it actually sticks. The real reason this plant knowledge disappeared isn't complicated. You can't patent nature. You can't make money from something that grows itself forever with zero inputs. Industrial agriculture profits from your dependency. They need you buying seeds every year, fertilizers every month, and food every week. A plant that feeds you 5 different ways for free threatens that entire system. So they erased it from common knowledge. They made you forget. But here's the truth. This is how humans ate for thousands of years. We're not inventing something new. We're just remembering what worked. The goal isn't to change everything at once, it's to start where you are and build from there, slowly and intentionally. Pick one part of this plant and try it this month. Let it be imperfect. Let it be messy. Let yourself learn by doing instead of waiting until you know everything. And if you want more calm, practical projects like this, subscribe and join us here at Zero to Purpose. This is a space for people who want to live more creatively, sustainably, and on purpose. We're not preppers. We're not off-grid extremists. We're just regular people building food security one simple project at a time because it feels good to depend on ourselves a little more and the system a little less. Your ancestors knew how to do this. That knowledge is in your DNA. You just need permission to trust yourself again. Thanks for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one.